it came to me to share this story because I feel like maybe somebody needs it. But my daughter was diagnosed with, and this is years ago, with sleep apnea, and it took a process to get to the point to say that it was sleep apnea. And then once we realized that's what it was, I didn't choose surgery. I just wanted her to see if it could shrink naturally. So we did the medication for over a year to see if it would shrink. But then it didn't shrink. And then after praying, I felt like, okay, I'm not getting a no nor a yes. So therefore, I think maybe surgery is the way to go. So we scheduled the surgery and I showed up at the day. And my daughter was like the healthiest because in like at that time in preschool, I mean, they were just constantly, RSV was out, every sickness was out. So it was like back to back. But she was healthy, no cold, no cough, no flu, nothing. So at the day of the surgery, I was there in the room. Then one doctor was there, and the doctor was prepping her and setting her up. And then my daughter went like that, like a dry cough or something like that. And then she did it back to back 3 times. And then another doctor came in. And before I know it, then there was a third doctor. And then at one point there was 4 doctors, and then that one left, and then there was 3. And they were like, oh, it seems like, she's sick. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, she's not sick. She's healthy. And I said, the only thing right now, that's the issue. It's sleep apnea. So, and that's why we're here for the surgery, to kind of help her. So they started giving me all these scenarios of what could happen. Like she could go, like if they give her the medication that puts her to sleep, then she possibly could not wake up. Because if she has some underlying issue as like pulmonary issues, and therefore they just start going on and on. Now my daughter was cleared for surgery. She had none of these issues. She has no lung issues. She had none of those problems. But they start bringing out any disease you could think of. And I was like to myself, I was thinking, why are you intentionally trying to block this surgery for no reason? You don't make sense. So I was done. Like I was just like, okay, you're going to get my tongue now. Then immediately, I heard the Holy Spirit says to me, are you going to be Balaam, like with Balaam with the donkey? And then my eyes opened, and then I saw in the 3 doctors were 3 angels. 3 angels were standing, and they were there, and they were the mouthpiece of the doctors, and they had came to block the surgery. And there was no way, I saw in the spirit that there was no way that this child was going to do the surgery today. They had come to block and to stop. And then the Holy Spirit said to me very clearly, are you going to be like Balaam? Because Balaam had beat, in Numbers 22, Balaam had beat the donkey. And that's a good story to go and read if you're not like ever heard of Balaam and the donkey. That is in Numbers 22. And that's when the angel opened the mouth of the donkey, because Balaam was in disobedience. And the angel opened the mouth of the donkey to talk and to rebuke Balaam, because she was beating the donkey when the angel was the one that was blocking the path. The angel was blocking the path so that Balaam didn't go and do what he wanted to do. The angels and the donkey saw the angels, but Balaam didn't. So anyway, that's Numbers 22. So I packed up our things, and at that time my daughter was still in the stroller, so I put her back in the stroller. And then the minute I step out of that room, that prep room that we're in, and there was a long hallway to walk, and then you hit the lobby, and then after you hit the lobby, you turn, and then you go into the parking lot. The minute I step out of the prep room, I saw the heavens were open above me, and in one accord, I heard like a cry. I don't know if they're the cloud of witness, but in one accord, they kept saying, why did you bring what belongs to God here? Why did you bring what belongs to God here? And they watched me. So in the spiritual realm, if you bow your head like this and you close your eyes, you cannot close them out, because your spiritual eyes you're still seeing. So I want to say I walked the walk of shame. I felt the rebuke. The rebuke. That walk of rebuke why did I bring what belongs to God here? And if you like, there's certain things that God will give you. You have to ask, you have to get permission. It's like when Anna prayed for Samuel, and then Samuel became, and then she brought back Samuel into the house of the Lord as she had promised. She returned him back to God because God gave her Samuel, and she promised to give him back to God, and then she did. So the Lord was like, why did you bring from what I gave you from my storehouse, from my kingdom here? And when my eyes opened, the floor that they had put her on in this hospital was where all the children that were born were born with birth defects, physical and mental birth defects. That's that floor that she was on. And then I just saw the demonic spirit of sickness all around me, and it was like the demonic kingdom that I was in, that floor that I was in. And so it was, the Lord was like, not like if I had done that surgery, it was like he was there to block it, because the level of the level of what was there on that floor, it was to push for my daughter, to seek my daughter dead, so she did not wake up from her surgery. So the angels came to block and to stop and to prevent. And so, but when the heavens opened and I was walking down it felt like, let me tell you this, the walk of shame. It's like, I don't know how to explain it to you. I'm just gonna say it would be similar like to if like two married couple, and one is so loyal and then the other one was cheating and they got caught at the whorehouse, and vice versa. Like, you get caught in the middle of the act betraying somebody. That level of embarrassment, that level of distaste, that's the rebuke I felt walking. Now, the heavens kept open all the way till I walk through that, all the way down the aisle, all the way down the hallway straight out, because we're in a prep room area. There was many rooms. And then I exit that area, and then I open the door into the lobby. Then I walk through the lobby. I kept hearing, why did you bring what belongs to God here? And they were looking at me, and they did not, I could just see them. It was like like, I don't know how to explain. I couldn't count them. They were thousands of witnesses that were saying it, and God was right there. And it was like he was the orchestra, like he was the one, like that was like, like an orchestra, like you're there and you're narrating the story, and you're like, you're leading them to say what to say up and down. God was the one that was he was the head of it, orchestrating all of this for them to sing, why did you bring what belongs to God here? And so when I opened the door and went through and stepped out into the garage, because they watched me until I exited the building. And then when I exited the building, the heavens closed. When I had parked my car right to the entrance door into the building, the garage, and so I was close by. So then I put my daughter into the car. I was so shaken up, and I felt the rebuke. But I felt the rebuke, but I also felt angry at God too. So when I got into the car, I called someone, and she's also a Christian. And so we were talking, and she was like, oh, you should be so excited. And then I said to her, no, I don't feel excited. I'm feeling the rebuke. I'm feeling like like if a husband or a spouse get caught in the whorehouse, like you get caught in the whorehouse by the other spouse. I said, well, would you be if you catch your husband or your husband catch you, and it's vice versa, would you be excited? Would you feel whatever? I said, no, I feel the rebuke, but I also feel upset against God. So I just know there was another story after the rebuke calmed down. But I guess at the end of it, God was like, well, now you know you don't take what is mine into the devil's house. You don't take what's mine into Satan's kingdom. What is mine, you put it back on my altar. You put it back on my altar, and you let it stay on my altar, because I, the Lord, have given it to you. You do not bring what is mine into the devil's house. You bring it back to me. You put it on the Lord's altar. And so I said, okay, So then after that, let's just say, after I calm down, because I needed to calm down a couple of days, but I get what you were saying, that what belongs to God, you bring it back to the house of the Lord. Now, if he sends you to that doctor, you give it to that doctor. But you know the means. Every one of us know the means by how we get our blessing. Like Anna knew, because she went to the priest. That's why Samuel was born. And she knew that God opened up her womb. And when Samuel was born, she gave him back to God, as she has stated. And then Samuel ruled over Israel. And then he became like the most well-known prophet of Israel. And I think he served Israel for 40 years. And the same way, like with Samson, when God give you something in a specific way, you know it because you're the one that prayed for it, or he's the one that came to you and make a covenant. And when he comes to you and he make a covenant and give you something through a covenant, you cannot just treat it any way. You must bring it back to his storehouse, to his house. You have to because God's house is his hospital. God has his own hospital. The kingdom of heaven have its own hospital. I have had vision where like I was in the hospital in heaven. And like the angel said to me, okay, you're scheduled for this day and you're going to need this much time to recover. So heaven has its own hospital on earth as it is in heaven. So heaven has its own hospital. And some of us are in the waiting room. Some of us are in the surgery room. Some of us are in the recovery room for whatever it is. Some of us surgery has not yet been scheduled. So on earth as it is in heaven. So maybe for you, it's okay. For what God has given you, it's okay for you to go through that route because he'll protect you through that route. But that day, the enemy was waiting for my daughter. But God was there and he blocked the enemy because where I had taken her, the enemy was dominant there. Like he had rule and reign there. So may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. And I hope that this touches and blesses someone, the person that it needs to touch and the person that it needs to bless, because I feel like that this was for somebody else out there. I felt like in my spirit that this was for somebody. So take care.